Let's go to some callers now. Stephen in Kentucky, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Yeah, I've got before asking my question, I have a little story to tell you just about me. So basically, my ex-wife cheated on me with my brother.
Oh.
And he's a truck driver, so she went on the road and left him and left me with our 4-year-old daughter.
She cheated on you with him and then left both of you?
No, she left me and my daughter for my brother and left me and my daughter.
Oh, for your brother. Well,
yes.
That's a tough... This is biblical, as you well know. This is a biblical problem, Stephen. It transcends all ages. It's about as evil as it gets. Now, what can I say to you that will help you? What is it that you want me to answer? What part of that is something that a stranger can even comprehend, making a statement that may be of some comfort to you?
Well, it's been almost a year now.
Right. So what is it that
I found out was there's a lot of men in the situation.
So there's more than your brother involved? There's more than your brother involved?
No, there's a lot of other men in my situation that have their wives or girlfriends have left, and there they are with their kids.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes, that's true, but not with the brother. The brother part of it is very unique.
That's different. That's unique. Yeah, that's different.
Now, what part of it would you like to discuss on this national radio program, The Savage Nation?
Well, my daughter's very smart, so she's always asking me questions.
Yeah.
And I'm always have to come up with an answer.
Right. So what is she asking you? What is she saying? Where's mommy?
She's saying stuff like, is mommy never going to come back again? Or she'll say, mommy's mad at you. She thinks, she's mad at me, that's why she's gone. Or
Murder. There's murder in the first degree. Terrible situation. I assume you have talked to a professional counselor by what you said to me, correct?
You could call them, state-appointed counselor.
Yeah, well, okay, they're pretty good, some of them. Doesn't mean that they're bad because they're state-appointed. And you learned in talking with the counselor that you're not alone in a situation of a man abandoned with a child, correct? So that gave you a certain degree of comfort where you're not blaming yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't blame myself.
All right, so you're past the self-blame and the self-doubt to a great extent. So what you're left with now is how do you explain to a growing daughter what happened? Isn't that what you're asking me?
That's what I'm asking.
I am remiss to give you any advice on this because I don't want to say the wrong thing, Stephen. You're dealing with a child whose development is at stake. And I would leave such a question to a professional who has dealt with exactly the situation before. The confounding variable here is the brother, is the uncle, because she must know that the uncle's involved, does she or does she not?
Yeah, she will say, because sometimes she'll pop in town and see her. And when she sees her, of course, they stay in a hotel, so she says, I was with...
Wait, hold it. Your wife who ran away with your brother comes into town, takes your daughter to the motel with your brother in the room?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh, God. Well, this is already bordering on I don't know legal-wise. It seems to me that this is bordering on some kind of child abuse situation. Have you talked to your wife about this behavior?
One would think. I try not to speak to her too much. We're actually divorced now, so we're not together.
All right, well, then let's turn it around. Have you spoken to your brother about this situation?
He won't speak to me. I've tried to speak to him 2 or 3 times, and he's very aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Did you grow up together with your brother? Did you have a real brotherly relationship, or was it something other than that?
I think I did. Like, I looked up to him. I'm the youngest.
So he was the older brother, and he wound up doing this to you, and he won't talk to you about it?
Right.
All right. Well, you have to write him off. This is a bad person, and there's no point in laboring on that. He's not going to change. Obviously, he has no morals, no scruples, and no sense of civility, so you're not going to be able to reason with him. It's a hellish situation. As an ancient Greek philosopher wrote, hell is a place where there is no reason. Your brother obviously lives in hell and would like to drag you into hell with him, so don't go there. The only issue here is your child. Isn't that what the only issue here is the child. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
All right. I would again defer to the professionals here. How do they deal with it? I don't know. I do not have any experience in this situation, Stephen, of what the right thing is to say to a child. Now, if you ask me what, God forbid, if I had been in that situation, what I would do in that situation without turning to anybody, I would sit down with the child, not at 4, maybe not at 5, maybe not at 6, and eventually level with her about what happened, which is that Mommy got mad at me. Mommy went off with your uncle or whatever, Bob, and Mommy's now with Bob, and that's what happened. But you can't say that to a 4-year-old child. All you can say is that Mommy's now with Uncle Bob, and they're living together. What else? I mean, she must know that, correct?
I mean, she knows that already.
So what is it? So if she knows, so what then is the question, Steve? If she knows that, and you're all living with it, and it's a fait accompli, and it's a done deal, what is the question then?
Well, the question is, because every now and then she'll remind me that she may know it, but she doesn't comprehend it.
No, she can't comprehend it, because a child wants to live in a dream. A child wants to live in a dream world where everything is like a comic book. A storybook. Here's Mommy, here's Daddy, here's Baby. That's what they want to have. Well, she can't have that anymore. So you're trying to create something for her that doesn't exist. It's gone. It's never going to be back. I'm afraid, though, that you're going to get volatile. By what I hear under the surface, Stephen, is that you're boiling inside. Is that any man would be boiling inside? Am I right that you boil on this? Do you boil on?
I was. I've confronted my brother face to face 3 times, and I didn't lay a hand on him. So.
Yeah, because I don't want to see an Oregon Mall shooting one night when you go out and have a few drinks. If this starts to burn in your guts, you know, I mean, you got to cope with your own.
I have a very high emotional intelligence. I can control.
Yeah, well, I don't care how. Listen, Stephen, by what you're telling me, one man to another, no matter how high your emotional intelligence is, you're still a human being. Your brother ripped off your wife. He's made a mess of your whole life. That has to be something that's eating at you. Now, that's the real problem here. And the child is the football. That's the real problem. And you have to think only of the child, what you're doing, obviously, because you're raising her. She didn't even take the child with her, did she?
No.
So you're the stable element you are the stable element in this family, correct?
That's correct.
Stephen, all I can say is go to the state counselor and say to them, how do you do it with a child? Do you explain it with dolls? What age do you do it at? Do you take dolls like a daddy doll and an uncle doll and a child doll? I mean, I don't know what they do. For child therapy that an expert could help you with, I am not qualified to tell you how to deal with child psychology, because you're dealing with a developing child, and whatever you do right now or don't do is going to shape your daughter's relationships with men for the rest of her life. You know that.
I do know that.
You know that. And the only thing you can give her is what you're giving her, Stephen. You're the best father in the world to give her what you're giving her in light of what happened. You must love her very deeply. And I suspect that she knows that. I also suspect that your love will override the insanity that you are living with. And on that note, I'm going to have to break off because I don't have any other advice. I wish you luck. That's a tough one. Now, you know, I'm doing something in radio that I've never really done like that. I mean, we're getting calls now that the show is in a different world, in a different time zone that I never got before. We could have light calls and fun calls. But now we're getting into human elements here that are very, very deep. And in some cases, I'm qualified just as a man-to-man and through life experience of my own. Meaning I'm not a child, you know what I'm saying? I'm 50 plus. I have grown children. I've been a father. I've read widely, I've thought widely, I've met a lot of people, and I have common sense. And I think that's enough in some cases, as my mother once said. And by the way, I do believe in therapy and in therapists. You know, I joke around a lot, but the fact is they're a very important part of our society. Make no mistake about it. It's easy to dismiss the entire profession, just as it is easy to dismiss talk radio hosts with the swipe of a hand, but it's absurd. You have to take it on an individual basis. Having said all of that, I have to go back to something my wonderful deceased mother told me when people had troubles in her time. And she was wrong and she was right in a way. It was a different age. It was a pre-therapy age, at least for the common person. Yes, the wealthy person always had gone to therapy, I would say, since the age of Freud. But the middle class or the poorer person had no such leisure. And so they turned to who? Friends. And my mother used to say to me, I don't know, I don't think you need therapists or psychiatrists, she would say. If you have a problem, all you need is a good friend. And that was what they said in those days. Unfortunately, today, there are no good friends, by and large. People don't care. Not only do they not care, they don't want to be bothered. Even if they want to care, they don't know what to say. And on top of it all, you have the legal issues. People are afraid to say a word for fear that they'll say the wrong word and it'll cause some disaster, and you wind up suing them. So it brings us right back to the role that I can fulfill here on the Savage Nation, which in some ways may be a road to the future for me, in that I am so burned out on politics, as I've told you now for months, not just weeks. We've had the most grueling and boring election in American history. The people don't want to hear another word about it. We know what Obama is. We know the Democrats are corrupt socialists. We know they're bankrupting America. We understand the Republicans are virtually the same, by and large. It's one system. It's an oligarchy. It's a Democrat, Republican country. And you say, well, why aren't they screaming? Let's clear the air. I've said it to you before. Because if they can rape the taxpayer and not cut any government programs, the Republicans are on the committees that disperse the money. Don't you know how Washington works? The committees are broken up between Democrats and Republicans. So do you think a Republican on a Defense Authorization Committee wants less money than a Democrat does? Of course not. It's his pork barrel, too. And the same with any other committee. It's the same pork barrel. And they cut it up. That's all. They slice the pork up. So don't look to the Republicans to save you. We had Bush for 8 years. Look what he did. So having said that, of course I'll point out crazy stuff when it comes up. News and crazy others I've done tonight, and I will always do. I'm not going to avoid politics, but to be frank with you, given the later hours of my show, the new audience I have, and the inherent trust that people have in me, I'm going to do an awful lot of what I've done tonight. Maybe not every night, but I will tell you right now, I think this is a very good road. It's a good roadmap for the Savage Nation. It's unique, it's useful, and I feel that it's worth doing. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-72.